The Great Goddess is a concept of the Mother Goddess, or a matriarchal religion. The Great Goddess hypothesis theorizes that all the various goddesses found throughout the many myths are in fact a representation of a singular, monotheistic female deity who had been worshipped far further back into prehistory, this deity being the concept of Mother Earth. The origins of the cult of the Great Goddess lie hidden in the dim twilight of prehistoric time. The Mother Goddess was eventually altered into different patriarchal god archetypes, including Yahweh, God the Father, and Allah, from the perspectives of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam respectively. It was only in the tame form of Mary, Mother of God, that some aspects of the Mother Goddess were permitted to survive. Present alongside the Mother Goddess is the Dark Goddess, a type of Jungian shadow. While the Mother Goddess represents life, the Dark Goddess represents the destruction. Together they make up the cyclical nature of life. A Dark Goddess archetype usually possesses qualities that are mysterious, magical, chaotic, destructive, violent, and transformational. Interestingly, there is a connection to the moon's dark phase and to the Dark Goddess, as traditionally the moon's dark phase is a time of fear and superstition, associated with death and isolation. The mythical embodiment of these fears is the Dark Goddess. Popular Dark Goddesses include Lilith, Kali, Hel, and Hecate. The earliest reference to Lilith is found in the Sumerian king list of 2400 BC. This list states that the father of the Sumerian hero king Gilgamesh was a Lilu demon, one of 4 succubi or vampire-like demons, creatures which preyed on humans while they slept. The other 3 demons being known as Lilith, or she-demons, which bore children from their nocturnal unions with men. In these Sumerian texts, Lilith was considered a vampire and a harlot, known as, quote, the beautiful maiden. In ancient Babylon, some cults were found to worship Lilith under many names. According to Hebrew myth, however, Lilith, and not Eve, was Adam's first wife, and the two were created at the same time. The fact that Lilith was born from the same soil suggests their equality. Refusing to accept an inferior role, Lilith fled the Garden of Eden. When Adam had complained to God, God sent 3 angels to retrieve Lilith, who was living beside the Red Sea, giving birth to demon spawn at the rate of more than 100 a day. When she refused to return to Adam, God punished her defiance by causing 100 of her demon children to perish daily, and condemning her to be Satan's wife. For centuries, Lilith was depicted as corrupt, deranged, and demonic. In ancient Hebrew, Lilith translates to night monster, or night creature. Her wild, evil spirit was believed to curse pregnancies and steal children. By the early 7th century, women were reciting incantations against Lilith to protect themselves and their babies during childbirth. It also became common practice to inscribe incantations on bowls and bury them upside down inside of a house. Some thought that the bowl would capture Lilith if she attempted to enter their home. Some medieval texts identify Lilith as the serpent who tempted Eve in the Garden of Eden. By the early 1200s, works of art began to portray the serpent as a snake or reptile with a woman's torso. Perhaps the best known example of this is Michelangelo's portrayal of Lilith on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, called The Temptation of Adam and Eve. Here, a female serpent is shown wrapped around the Tree of Knowledge, which some have interpreted as a representation of Lilith, tempting Adam and Eve. A few decades ago, feminist writers and activists took a closer look at Lilith's narrative and reputation, challenging negative implications and redefining her as a female archetype that is in fact self-liberating. Kali, the Hindu goddess of time and change, is also tied to the dark moon. She represents the death of the ego, and through that, spiritual enlightenment. Kali is not always thought of as a dark goddess. Despite her origins in battle, she's evolved into a full-fledged symbol of Mother Nature in her creative, nurturing, and devouring aspects. She is referred to as a great and loving primordial mother goddess in the Hindu tantric tradition. As a mother goddess, she is referred to as Kali Ma, meaning Kali Mother, and millions of Hindus revere her as such. The Norse god, Hel, is also a dark goddess. She represents death, as she is the queen of the underworld. Her body was said to be half alive and half dead, to represent the balance of life. She can grant rebirth, but she can also damn you to the depths of her kingdom for all eternity. In ancient Greece, the dark moon was known as the Old Moon, and associated with Hecate, as she was worshipped on the dark moon. A ritual to honor her would include a cleansing prayer for eternal darkness, then cleaning her home and making food offerings to her at a crossroads, which was known as an Hecate supper. Offerings consisted of fish, garlic, cheesecake, and eggs, among many other things. To the Druids, the new moon represents total feminine energy and an absence of masculine energy. The feminine is the receptor of the seed and the womb of the newborn, a time to ritualistically plant a seed. This could refer to a literal planting of seeds, the seed of a child, or a type of spiritual rebirth. In the ancient world, the calendar revolved around the lunar cycle, the new moon acting as the beginning of the month, while the dark moon was the end. In astrology, the dark moon embodies a chance to start over, to cleanse oneself, and be reborn in a sense during the new moon. Our lives flow in unison with the cycles of the moon. It can be bright and full, and then the next moment dark and unseen. Just like the balance of light and dark in our own lives and in nature, there is no light without the dark. Black moon Lilith in astrology is known as a void, an absence. Black moon Lilith doesn't physically exist. It's actually a location, not a celestial being. While a black moon is not an astronomical term, it is celebrated by those interested in nature spirituality, such as pagans or Wiccans. A black moon's meaning is associated with prosperity and good fortune to most. As the moon spins around Earth, it moves on its own elliptical orbit, in which the Earth isn't exactly at the center. This means the moon is sometimes closer to the Earth than at other times. A black moon is just a second new moon that happens on the same calendar month. There is no difference than any other new moon from the perspective of science. When the moon is on the same side of the Earth as the sun, then the face of the moon that gets sunlight is pointed away from us, and we can't see it. The lack of moonlight during its new moon phase allows you to see the stars, planets, and the Milky Way better. When the moon is above the horizon, moonlight drowns out all the stars and planets, but during a new moon, it's mostly below the horizon during the night, meaning that during the new moon, it's a great chance to go observe the night sky, unless you live in an area with heavy light pollution. A new moon happens every 29.5 days, so astronomically speaking, this is a pretty common occurrence. 2 new moons will happen in the same month whenever the first new moon falls on the first day of a 31-day month. This will happen every year or two. Fun fact, did you know that the moon has long been associated with insanity and irrationality? The words lunacy and lunatic are derived from the Latin name of the moon, Luna. Philosophers Aristotle and Pliny the Elder argued that the full moon induced insanity in susceptible individuals, as they believed that the brain, which is mostly water, must be affected by the moon and its power over the tides. Even today, people who believe in the lunar effect claim that admissions to psychiatric hospitals, traffic incidents, homicides, or suicides increase during the full moon, but dozens of studies have invalidated these claims. Astronomical events have captured the attention of people throughout time, as evident by countless stories told across civilizations focused on the night sky. But knowing what planets and stars really are and how they work doesn't mean that we still can't also learn something from their associated myths. Within astrology, Black Moon Lilith can be viewed as a missing piece, a representation of our deepest repressed desires that yearn to be expressed. It speaks to the darkest parts of ourselves that we're often afraid to acknowledge, or where we feel criticized or misunderstood. When we choose to explore these empty spaces in our own stories, we can uncover incredible discoveries about the most hidden parts of ourselves, our desire, autonomy, and freedom. This reflects how German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche used the abyss as a metaphor to personify the infinite depth of our psychological complexity. He saw it as a place of untold danger, where we struggle to confront or even acknowledge the deepest, darkest parts of ourselves. But he also saw it as a place for growth and for transformation. If we dare gaze into the abyss, we are not just looking into a void of emptiness, but at our most deep-seated problems and emotions, our demons. He believed that we can help ourselves by dealing with them. Facing our monsters is a terrifying prospect, but it has the potential for profound discoveries. Our responsibility, and maybe even our destiny, is to want nothing more than to embrace the abyss. Confront your anguish head-on and purify yourself. Within Elden Ring, there is a demigod we've discussed before, named Ranni the Witch, but like Lilith, she goes by different names. Lilith's name has transformed over time due to different dialects and languages, while Ranni utilizes a different alias to maintain the illusion of her death. During our first interaction, she goes by Renna, the name of her secret mentor, a snowy crone who taught the young Ranni cold sorceries connected to the dark moon, a symbol of death veiled in occult mystery in the lands between. Ranni's dark moon connects to Lilith's black moon. Ranni's great rune even etched on the surface of the moon, displaying a connection to the dark goddess archetype. Just to be clear, I am comparing Ranni's dark moon in-game to Lilith's black moon, but please keep in mind a dark moon and a black moon are different astrological events. A dark moon is when a moon is not visible in the night sky, while a black moon is when 2 new moons take place in a calendar month. That being said, we will cover the Black Moon of Nox culture in a bit. The phases of the moon in-game can be viewed as a cycle of life. The full moon represents birth, seen through Inala, queen of the full moon, a motherly figure who holds the great rune of the unborn, allowing for the rebirth of the tarnished. On the opposite side of the spectrum, we have the dark moon, which represents death. The dark moon described as cold and dark, and those who have practiced under the dark moon did so with a fearful respect of its power. Just as the great goddess gives life, its shadow, the dark goddess, takes life away. As mentioned earlier, we first meet Ranni at night, mirroring the titles given to Lilith, such as night creature. Ranni is associated with night and slumber, just as Lilith in Sumerian myths preyed on victims while they slept, and took place in nocturnal unions. The ring we present to Ranni during our union is labeled the Dark Moon Ring, showing its clear connection to the night. Lilith, being a dark goddess in some of her mythos, connects her with death, while Ranni is known for her part in the plot to murder Godwyn the Golden on the Night of the Black Knives. Ranni tells us that she stole death long ago, which refers to the fragment of destined death fused into the blade used for Godwyn's murder. Ranni also presents the Tarnished with a spirit calling bell, a bell capable of summoning various spirits from ashen remains. Not to mention, Ranni herself has died, and currently uses a doll as a storage location for her soul. Lilith's refusal to be obedient mirrors Ranni's refusal to follow the path of the Empyrean. Both Lilith and Ranni can be described as self-liberating. Like Lilith, Ranni decides to control her own fate, rather than having it being decided for her by the greater will. We have also discussed Lilith's connection to the biblical serpent, some even identifying her as the serpent who tempted Eve in the Garden of Eden. A version of the Epic of Gilgamesh also features a character that's thought to be Lilith. She lives hidden away in a large tree trunk, guarded by a snake. Ranni has also a connection to serpents, as her brother Rykard has joined with the god-devouring serpent. Ranni trusted Rykard to assist her in the plot, and gave him a slab of rock, engraved with traces of the rune of death. And Rykard's title, Lord of Blasphemy, relates to the serpent often utilized as a symbol for Lucifer by Christians. Quickly, I wanted to discuss the Black Moon that played a crucial role within the ancient culture of the Nox. The moon of Noxtella is an artificial creation used to pay tribute. The Black Moon could possibly be the Dark Moon, just an artificial version of it, while serving as a portal for the primeval current. Ranni also carries out the Nox goal of an age of stars, acting as the Lord of Night through the power of the Dark Moon. The moon of Noxtella was the guide of countless stars. The term guide here could be used in the same way as it's used when Rosas guides the dead. Plus, we know through Sorcerer Selene that stars contain residual life force. The Black Moon seems to share many commonalities with the Dark Moon as it relates to death. Within astrology, the Lilith's Black Moon can be seen as an abyss to embrace change, while the Age of Stars starts a 1,000-year period of darkness, removing the influence of the outer gods. The dark path Ranni follows is one filled with fear, doubt, and loneliness, but she continues forward, embracing these traits for a newfound liberation in the lands between. To embrace the darkness is to embrace the fear. The reward, a deeper knowledge of the self. Thank you very much for your time today, and I hope you have a wonderful week.